Hello, good evening, Adam. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks so much for joining us on Getting to Know Your series, which we launched on Monday, and it's getting great feedback online, showing your selection of portraits. I suppose we should really talk about how we met first, and I saw your work through one of our other artists, Anna Allworthy, which you now do collaborations with.
Yep.
Um, so I suppose, how did you start? Have you always been a painter? I mean, or how did you start?
No, I haven't always been a painter. Some might say I'm still not. But
Oh,
no, well, I started off. I went to Bristol University, studied theatre, film, and television, then drama school. So I'm an actor, and then I worked in the charity fundraising industry. Then I did an RHS gardening qualification. So I do a bit of gardening, do a bit of acting, and do a bit of
oh,
painting.
creative, very, very creative.
Well, I mean, I think, I mean, I remember doodling on a train coming back from London about 5 years ago. And then from there, from that doodle, it's kind of built.
Wow,
Somewhat.
really? Just 5 years ago? Yeah, because I've only have you in the gallery probably about a year now, so not too long. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
the comments aren't coming up on the screen. Just to let you know, if there are any
Okay,
comments.
they're coming up on mine. If you maybe click on your comments, can you see?
Uh,
If not,
yeah.
I can read it out to you. Don't worry.
No, it doesn't seem to have it. It has video, cam, mic, chat, audio, but doesn't have anything else.
Mm,
But
on
just
your
yeah, if you could, yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
no worries.
Just make them up.
Oh. Don't worry, I have loads of questions. If anyone does want to ask Adam anything, please just write it in the comments. Um, Obviously, yeah, anything in reason. Okay, love the hat.
Well, as I'm in the shed, people often have trains in their shed, so I thought I'd wear the appropriate hat. I don't have
Oh
the
yeah,
train, but I have the hat.
it's quite good. Yeah, I can see the relevance to it. So we started selling more kind of your quirky illustrations. Would you so how have you got into the portraits and now you're going into landscape? So it's quite a diverse um selection of styles. So what do you prefer, or how do you decide which one you want to do?
I don't prefer any of them really. They're all, in terms of deciding what to do. Um, I just flip from one to the other, and then just go with it. So at the moment, it's mainly portraits and landscape. But the other night, I did a bit of graffiti. I think really, it's just I don't have enough time. I just want to paint as much of the world
Mhm.
as possible before I check out. So, I, and I go with whatever I feel like in that moment, really. And if I can't do it, if I can't get there, then I'll keep on trying to get there until I get better at it.
Mhm.
Um, so I might sort of reach a point where the painting, I think, works, and then a few days later I might paint over it. So I don't
Oh
mind doing
really?
that. So
Yeah. And who are the portraits of? Are they, do you go to life drawing classes, or are they just people you
they're
know?
all they're all of me,
Okay, even the girl with the plaster.
especially that one. No, some. Well, I mean, there's two parts to it really. Some I'll be asked to do. So my neighbour's asked me to paint his brother, um, not literally on canvas, and
Right.
then and then, but mainly what it is that I don't really paint people, real
Right.
people. I kind of take part, an eye or a nose or a part of the face, and I'll start and I'll just see how that goes, and an emotion, a feeling, a mood, a character will emerge. Sometimes I'll have a note, I'll have a brief, an internal brief. I'll say, right, I want it to be part restoration, part modern. He's very mundane, but he has a very cheery side to him. And I might have that in the mix, and hopefully that will come through at some point.
Right.
Usually it changes, the face changes, and I go with that. And in the end, I come up with, or that person reveals him or herself to me.
Okay, right. That's interesting. So, do you mind doing commissions then, or
No, I don't mind at all.
don't? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the one I'm doing for my neighbour looks like his brother. I mean, it's I don't mind doing that at all. It's just that I think I find finding a character, finding the face more interesting, I think. So I think it's leaping into the unknown and seeing what happens.
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions there for you, Adam. Carol, do you ever abandon a painting? You make it look like it's easy.
Thank you. I have probably abandoned 2 paintings.
That's not bad.
That I can remember. And I just keep going back, really. I make it look easy. No, it's not easy. I don't find it easy at all. I kind of wrestle with the work a lot. I usually just use, for oil work, one palette knife, and I just wrestle and wrestle and wrestle until I get it, and then it's there, I think.
Do you revisit a lot of the work? Do you leave it aside and then go back and do it again, or do you complete everything in one go?
Mainly, I complete everything in one go.
Right.
Occasionally, the heavy impasto, some of the portraits, like the one behind you, for example, that probably has 6 or 7 faces behind it.
Really?
And I love that. So, but no, mainly I kind of finish it in one sitting.
Okay. Michael, love your work, Adam. Who or what are your influences?
Thank you very much indeed, Michael. Influences. Maurice Utrillo, early 20th century impressionist, post-impressionist painter of Montmartre. Always gets me quite emotional. I think it's because his colours and textures. I always keep a book open with his work. So there we go. This is Montmartre. I just find his work enlightening, really, special. And he was a special kind of guy, a drunkard, but he lived quite a long life, actually, despite that. And he just painted buildings, and whenever he painted figures, they were always walking away from the scene. So there's Utrillo, Giacometti, there's who else? Many other people. Oh, Van Gogh, of course. Bruegel, Bosch, Tim Benson, who's a contemporary artist. I just like his broad strokes and simplicity to create a portrait, to capture a moment. And then finally, I guess, really, it's whatever's out there, whatever catches my imagination. Music, that inspires me.
Yeah, I can tell from your Instagram you're a big fan of every type of music.
Yeah. Michael Nyman, actually. I play a lot of Michael Nyman when I'm creating some of the heavy impasto stuff.
Right.
And then Sleaford Mods. So a bit of Sleaford Mods and Michael Nyman, completely contrasting. And I guess you get those contrasts in the work. I hope, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Sarah wants to know, do you ever paint over a painting?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because I'll look at a piece and I'll decide I don't like it anymore and paint over it. So some people might like it in its state, but I won't. So unless it's out the house or out the studio, I might mess with it again. So,
Right.
yeah.
So Anna wants to know, how do you choose your color palette?
I just buy some paints, stick them on the palette, and I can show you now. This is my new work.
Oh, that's a great palette.
I call it "Oh, the Laddie of the Grange."
Actually, I have to say your titles are very humorous. Do you put a lot of thought into your titles?
Yeah, I do, but not before I've painted. So I'll paint, and then I'll sit back, and then I'll think about what the title is, whether it's landscape, cityscape, portrait, abstract, whatever. Because it's telling me a story, I think, and I'd like to sort of translate that in the title. Titles are incredibly important to me. Yeah. I get a little bit funny if somebody shows the piece without the title, because for me, it's a story. It's an adventure, hopefully. It's a world. So, yeah.
I think that's what, from the very start of knowing your work and your drawings, the titles were always connected immediately to that was what it was saying about the drawing. Actually, someone's just asked there as well, will you ever go back to your minimalistic drawings, such as the ones you started with?
Yeah, on the video that I shared, there's I've got a watercolor sort of desk in the house, and I still do pen and ink. Sometimes I do the minimalist stuff in order to inform, the oil paints. But yeah, no, I still do that. Yeah.
And you'll always
it started off minimalist because I just couldn't do it. So I just there you go.
It's it's a nice contrast though to have the two there, isn't it?
Yeah, I like contrasts. I think you need a foil. I need a foil, something to work against. I started thinking, what's my style? What do and how can you tell it to me? But I just couldn't settle. So I decided to settle for not settling. And in not settling for a style, I came to a style. And that's kind of where I am with it. Well, I mean, there's always room for error, and I like that. Room for change.
When do you know a painting is finished? Emma wants to know.
Someone said that a painting's never finished. You just walk away from it, or it's abandoned.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I like to think that the painting isn't ever finished. But when I leave it alone, it's usually about 10 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, really?
And then that's it.
It's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you start working in oils?
Probably about a year ago.
Okay, right.
Yeah. A little bit before that, but not to the extent that I'm working in oils at the moment.
Yeah.
All of this stuff here was over the last 12 months, I think. So.
Really? Okay. Yeah, interesting. Actually, there's another question there. What is your top number one tip for starting with oils?
Get messy. Just buy any kind of oil, just a palette knife and a brush and some thinner, and just use it on anything. Sometimes I might draw in pencil or ink. Might use a bit of ochre, or I might not. Might just start with a library stamp. So I think really it's just start.
Not afraid of it.
Yeah, just don't think about it really, and then think about it.
Well, I have to agree that with you do make it look really easy. The portraits, they're so kind of simply look done, and they're just beautifully done as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to objectify the work, isn't it? You know, to sort of, I mean, it's useful sort of just going to sleep, waking up, having another look at it. I always find that when I open the shed door in the morning and look at it, if I like it, I'm probably onto a winner with it.
Yeah. Okay. Are you normally critical of your own work?
Incredibly.
Okay. You shouldn't be.
Thank you.
Another Deirdre wants to know, have you ever illustrated any books, or is this something you would be interested in?
I have illustrated one book. They might be listening or watching now. It was called Richmond Big Bottom, and it was a beautifully written book that I didn't illustrate very well, but I think I got a couple of frames from it, and in other words, a couple of good images that I was pleased with. So I don't think I would do a lot of it though. I think I like the freedom of, you know, just like as in working on a painting, seeing what happens, and you can't do that with when you're illustrating somebody's beautiful work. You know, you have to stay true to that work really. But who knows? Yeah, I'll give it another go.
There's a reflective quality to a lot of your work, but there's also a sense of fun, even humor. Who are your comedy role models? Good question.
Lauren Hardy. Lauren Hardy.
Lauren Hardy. In actually the collaborations you do with Anna's work, I can always see, you know, what you were actually into. There's always Mary Poppins as well in the sky, and
yeah,
there's a bit there's a bit of everything.
I think on at least one painting of the collaborations, there is a silhouette of Laurel Hardy. I like a lot of early 1960s American cartoons. I mean, Pink Panther, for example. Slapstick a lot, because I think what it is life can be very dark. This shed can be very dark. I can be very dark. And I think it's important to have something very light at close to hand. And I think I'd like to have that in the painting. So reflective, yes. Yeah, definitely.
That's one of the things I've noticed with a lot of our customers who buy the collaborated pieces. They always find something new in it. They could look at it for about 10 minutes and then come back 10 minutes later and see it again, something completely different, and it makes them smile, which is, I just think, is so important when you're buying a piece of art, that you have that little distraction that can make you switch off from the world, especially in the current climate. If anything can make you smile, it's so important.
Yeah, and not take yourself too seriously, which I do terribly. But just going back to the collaborative work, you say, you see something new in it. When I received the piece from Anna, when she starts it, I mean, I've always liked her work because, you just keep on looking and you just see more and more the more you look. And so that definitely happens there. And then I just look at it and think, how can I not make it, bad? How can I make it better?
Oh God, really?
And so then it's just a question of, I've got a list of sort of things I would like to put on our collaborative work, and I just go down the list and try them, and then leave a bit to chance, and it's usually a portrait.
So when she gives you the piece, you do your bit, and then do you give it back and she does more, and then do you give it back to you again, or is that it? It's done once each and that's it, it's finished?
Yeah.
There's no going back and forth at all.
No, not really. We'll probably decide on an image. She'll source it, decide where to go. So it could be Dublin, London, Birmingham, Venice, whatever. And then she'll start the painting, hand it over. She'll leave gaps. I'll fill the gaps. I'll hand it back. She might sort of work around or over my horrendous work.
Who does all the graffiti then? Who puts that in? Is that yourself or Anna?
Anna. Some of it's already there, and then I do a lot, but it's really, and also adding to or extending what's already there. So on some of them, you've got original graffiti, and then I might extend that graffiti into something else, or paint over it or something. So yeah, I really enjoy graffiti actually, but I don't think I could be a graffiti artist.
Right, you never know. Do you have a sketchbook where you put all these drawings in wherever you are? If you think of an idea that could be quirky, that could be in the collaboration, do you quickly draw it out and keep that aside?
No.
No. So
I
you really,
don't have.
everything you do is just on the moment, is it?
Yeah, it's well, I have lots and lots of notes.
Right.
It's gone from paper notes to phone notes, and I'll just have an idea. It's always idea driven, and then I'll just develop it from there.
Okay, it's interesting. We've another question. Were you always an artist? So I suppose we kind of tapped on that earlier.
No, as I said earlier, no. No. I mean, I started tinkering about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been in galleries probably for about 2 years. And before that, I trained as an actor, and I do act still badly. And before that, I went to Bristol University. So yeah.
But you love painting now. That's just the.
With acting, I mean, I love acting, but you can't act all the time. You can paint all the time. You can see the results all the time. I get quite emotional about it because I don't really know how to express it. It's you know, I mean, I just use this. This is like my best friend, and I can't put it down. I can't put it down, but I will now.
So how has the lockdown affected you then, with work-wise or?
Well, I can appreciate that for some people the lockdown's been really awful, and my heart goes out really. For me, I've been very fortunate that I can work from home, and I can paint, and so I've covered more ground than I would have done ordinarily.
Wow.
I think the heart of what I do is kind of work around sort of belonging and displacement, those sort of themes, and of course, you know, that's quite relevant right now. So I think I've just like Orpheus, I've descended even further, I think.
Yeah.
In a good way.
So Mark has a question. He says, I love the darkness in some of your work, especially the buildings, but you seem to always inject a shot of fun. Is that your optimism coming through?
Yeah. I think I am, beneath it all, optimistic for humanity. And so I think, you know, I think I do. I think that's something I always make sure I do. I put something light. Doesn't have to be funny, but light in the work. I think it needs it.
Yeah, I agree. Alistair wants to know, do you still aim to produce a painting a day?
Yeah, I do produce a painting a day, sometimes two. I'm also quite conscious that, well, no, I mean, I've tried to not produce a painting once a day and take my time over it. And so some of the larger works take me 2 or 3 days. But that's not through choice. That's just through, you know, the way that I work, really. But I like to be in the moment, and I like to find a moment. And so the results on the canvas or the paper or whatever is the result of that moment. I find it difficult stretching that moment over days.
Okay. What is the largest painting you have done?
I'm working on a piece you can't see just here, but I mean, so behind me, there's that one there. It's about 90 by 60, I think, and then that one there, and I've got this huge canvas that's half the size of the shed. That's been sitting here for about a year, and it's been whispering to me. I got my hand on it now, and it tells me all sorts of things. But I can't paint on it yet. The time will come.
Do you bring your easel out to the garden there when the weather is hot?
I do. I don't paint on it. I just bring it out to the garden.
Let it whisper to you.
Yeah, I do. I like painting in the garden when I can. Yeah.
Do you do plein air painting? Do you set off on trips and get the easel out? No.
I'm going to get a plein air easel box, which I've had my eye on. Once I get that, I'm going to go and try and go out in the field and literally a field and paint that field.
Well, a very strange question, but what's your favorite biscuit?
Twix.
Now there's the question. Is that a biscuit?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's got a biscuit in it.
There's the debate.
I'm also quite partial to a wagon wheel.
Okay, right. Michael, I was viewing some of your latest work and I was wondering, is there talcum powder in some of your portraits? And the second part of sorry, I'm just trying to read it properly. You said you're only working with oils in the last year. So how are you coping with the slower drying rate? And lastly, do you use any accelerators to speed up the process? Okay, there's a good few questions in that.
It's not talcum powder, it's narcotics. What was the second question?
I thought so.
No, it's well, sometimes I'll use gesso, but mainly it's oil. It's just oil.
Okay.
Drying time, I don't use anything to speed it up. Obviously, oil on paper dries really quickly. I quite like that. But no, I don't use anything to speed it up. And there was another question, wasn't there, in the middle there somewhere? I can't remember.
Talking about the portraits, working with oils in the last year. How are you coping with the slower drying rate?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, as you can probably see, I do a painting, then put it aside and let that dry whilst I'm cracking on with another painting. Sometimes I'll walk into the shed and fall over on a drying painting, which changes the painting immensely.
Happy accidents.
Yeah, or not.
Is that? Can I see behind you there, the black and white one? Is that a cloudscape? The other side, it just looks like clouds, which I haven't seen.
That one.
Yeah.
It's
above you, up higher.
That one there.
Yeah.
It's all one.
Okay, right.
It's of North Devon, and I've used. So you got this. This is the sea, obviously, and then you can't see it, but
I see what you mean.
I've used a library stamp.
Oh my God.
To create the rocks.
Now, where did you get the library stamp, Adam? So, you talk about doing commissions with portraits. Would you do commissions of landscapes as well for our customers, or you don't mind?
Yeah.
And do you work from photographs then, or do you travel? Some artists prefer to travel and get to know the landscape better. How do you work?
Photographs. I haven't yet, traveled to do that. I'm hoping to do that once I get my plein air box. But I'm open for that. I just haven't done it. So I just, yeah. I'm open to anything.
In reason, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite painting?
Of mine, or?
Well, actually, there's 2 questions that you could. Of yours first. Yeah.
My favorite painting, not of mine, is Wheat Field with Crows, which is actually, I've got a print behind all my work here, simply because Van Gogh painted the path that doesn't, it kind of stops in the distance. It doesn't kind of disappear into the distance. and I think that was his last painting before he died. So I quite like the symbolism in that. My painting, I don't know, favorite one. I mean, I've got lots of paintings sort of hanging up here, and it changes on a daily basis, really, depending on what I'm doing. I quite like this little pig.
Oh, actually, I saw that on your Instagram. I love that. That's it? Is this your first animal drawing?
Yeah.
Or you've done, actually, did we have an elephant and a hippo in the gallery before?
Yeah, I've done an elephant, a hippo, and a giraffe. But they're yes. But in terms of more animals, I'm getting into animals. Don't take that the wrong way, but I'm getting into animals.
Careful there, Ad. You know, now people are going to ask, are you going to do some dog commissions? Is that
no? No.
Just hippo. Rat.
If you've got a pet hippo, I'll do your hippo.
Sounds so wrong. So how has the collaboration with Anna changed your style and changed your work? I mean,
yeah, I've learned a lot. I keep on learning a lot. You know, I first had to learn how to make the ideas that I had work on her painting, and then I decided that, you know, for example, if it's a figure, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the frame realistically. It can stand outside the frame a little bit, in a kind of meta way, I guess. And like the graffiti, for example, doesn't need to sit on a wall; it could sit in the sky. So it helps. Working with the collaborative paintings helps me expand, I think, and think outside the box, try new things. I think that's really important. Yeah, and then just technique, really, you know, and then just copying all her work.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you haven't gone to art college, but do you do? No, that's not a bad thing. There's no, I mean, that says to me there's no fears at all, you know, and because sometimes there can be a lot of rules in art and there shouldn't be. But have you gone to you know, do you do life drawing classes, or do you do any type of art classes over the last 5 years since you started?
None. I don't think I will either.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe there's a need for me to do that, but no. You know, look. I mean, I went through university, went to drama college. I studied a gardening course. I kind of shy away from courses, but who knows? I might do. In terms of the fear, I think I have plenty of fear. Fear that it's not very good. Fear that I'm not going to be able to get there. So I think it's important to embrace the fear. The fear is absolutely one of the guiding principles. It's feel the fear, get in the swimming pool, and just go to the deep end.
Yeah.
You know, and just see what happens.
No. Oh, Michael wants to know, do you think your experience as an actor has had an effect on your art? That's interesting, because Michael is one of our artists as well, so I know he has an acting background too. Yeah.
Yes. It's funny. I when I first started painting, I was wondering how or if there was a connection, and I couldn't really articulate it in my head up until just recently. And I think if you take a character, for example, a portrait, the reason why I like painting in you know, that finishing it in one session, being in the moment, it's a bit like being an actor. If you're a good actor, and I'm not saying I am, it's not really about acting, it's about being. It's about being in the moment. And I think, and also inhabiting that character and going on a journey, telling a story. So I like to tell a story, hopefully, in all the work. I like to inhabit the world that is being painted, and I like to live the life of the character that I'm painting as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you can visualize more of that portrait that has a really a long journey in your head already when it's there. It speaks to you almost afterwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And sometimes it says, what the hell do you think you were doing?
Can I ask you, with the girl with the plaster, so what was the what was that about then? Did you just decide that to stick the plaster on afterwards, or what was in your head?
I wanted, I think from what I remember, I wanted to paint, at the time I was painting old people, or people of an older age, and I wanted to paint, I think I wanted to paint my daughter, but decided not to paint my daughter. So I thought, well, let's paint either a young lad or a young girl or whatever. And then I had this idea of strength in childhood, womanhood, and so I wanted to paint a strong figure, and I guess I wanted to show that she'd perhaps been through something and had succeeded at it. Could be a fight, could be whatever. And then I think I just looked at it and I thought, I don't want to paint a plaster. Let's just stick a plaster on it. And there's the fun element.
And it worked, and you didn't want to take it off.
No, it is varnished. It will not come off.
Oh, so you actually varnish over the plaster, did you? Right. So that. Yeah. So sorry, I'm going back to the collaboration. So do you, when you finish yours, then does Anna put the varnish over it, and that's it? Once the varnish is over it, that's it. It's done. It's signed, and it's ready for the gallery.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's probably it's her first, then me. Then she finishes it off. I might varnish over some of my bits as well, just to make sure, just in case. I think she's always worried that when she paints the varnish over, that all my work just comes off.
I have to say that the collaboration pieces are just, I love them. I think they're stunning as well. I think, it's great to see. We've got a couple of artists who've teamed up, and it just works. It really well. How did that happen though? How did you come about the idea? Or
I went to Littlefoot Gallery to her solo show because I liked her work, and then David, the gallerist, introduced me very, very briefly, and then she says, I think I saw some of your work on Instagram, and I said, yeah, I think I've seen your work there as well, and other places. And then from there it was, I think she said she suggested that we maybe try something together. So I was a bit, how the hell is that going to work? But into the deep end. So yeah.
Do you ever have an artist block? If so, how do you overcome that?
No, I don't.
Really? I've never in the 5 years. No. Amazing.
I know how that might sound, and I don't want it to sound like that. It's just I don't have enough time. There's never enough time. The ideas that most of them might not work, but I've got reams and reams and reams of them, and I can't get through. I'm trying to catch up all the time. So I guess if I don't have an idea, I'll just go back to the notes. But I don't tend to go back to the notes. It's a funny experience, really.
So with the show we have on, how long did that take to do? For
some of the paintings I've already had, but some of them I obviously then decided to paint in a similar style, or at least have in mind the same world. I think they all pretty much inhabit the same sort of world, hopefully. And so I suppose it would have taken a week or two to get them out and to sort of get them drying.
So do the landscapes take longer to do than the portraits, or is it much the same?
Much the same, yeah.
Really?
Much the same.
And I'm just looking behind you there, the little tiny portraits. Are they references? Do you do little drawings of them first and then put them on larger size?
Yeah. No, they're not reference. I think I started off doing them that size for them to be references, but I don't really mind what size I work in. I have a mind to work on much larger scale, which I am doing. But occasionally I'll go back to the smaller ones because I don't know. I kind of like getting close and intimate with them. So the idea, yes, you're right. That the idea was to paint them as references, and who knows? I mean, the plan is always to go back to these and make them bigger if I have the time.
So we keep telling you, go bigger, go bigger.
Go bigger.
Have you painted your children? Have you done portraits of them and yourself, or is that on that list as well?
Yeah. Before I knock everything down, that's my son, or at least
that's brilliant.
Partially.
That's fantastic. It does look like him, yeah.
But and then my daughter, but she's got that in her room. Hopefully, if it hasn't gone in the bin.
Do you enter all these competitions, or is that on the list of entering, getting into the academy and doing all these? Have you, or?
Yeah, I do that. I've gotten into a few of them, and I can't. For every 10 that you apply to, you probably get into about 2. So I mean, Sunday Times watercolor competition. I've been in there twice. Discerning Eye, Royal Society of Watercolor Painter thingies, that kind of all that sort of stuff. And then terribly disappointed when I don't get into a place.
Do you get really upset if you don't get accepted? Do you start questioning the piece or yourself?
Absolutely.
It's normal. It's quite normal. I think every artist does get disheartened over it.
Yeah, because you take it it's your piece. You take it so personally.
Yeah.
What I have been getting better at doing though is if a piece doesn't work, not getting so angry about it and getting so upset. I just kind of either carry on with it, or leave it for a little bit and then paint over it.
And how are you on deadlines? Do you like them? Do you like galleries giving you deadlines?
Yeah, absolutely. As in acting, I like being directed. I'm an actor that likes being directed. Painting, I give myself a deadline. I'll say I'm going to stop painting at 10:30, and I'll have that piece done.
And you do.
And I do.
So is anyone else in your family creative, or is it just you?
My wife was an actor.
Okay.
Both Jack and B, they paint, draw. They do a bit of acting. I mean, it's all there. But I don't think we push them. It's just try to allow them time to experience all those things, I think.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think you work quite well in an artist studio, a shared studio space, or would you like your own privacy?
I don't know. I think my first feeling would be privacy. But I don't know how it would work. I've done sort of installation work with other people, but that's a group effort. It's not a painting, so who knows?
You're open. Dan wants to know, do you ever want to abandon the figurative aspect of the work and allow the total abstract to come through?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so that's why I think they flip between semi-naturalism to abstract. I have done some, but not that many. So but my abstract work is completely different though. Actually, it's more about shapes. In sort of so different shapes coming together and stuff.
You're open to try more abstract.
Taking the I think the landscapes tend to disappear into more abstract more easily, and I don't mind that at all. But I mean the figurative work. I mean, there's a little one here. Where is he? Where it's. It is a head and shoulders, but you can still
I
look
love
at it.
that. Mm.
So yeah,
I mean,
I'll see how it
the
goes.
landscape, there's this great energy and movement, especially in your skies. Even there, I'm looking behind your. There's a beautiful one there of your skyscapes, and that's what I think. Yeah, that connection with your work is. Yeah. Do you study skyscapes, or do you do you tend to days off when you're out and look at the sky a lot?
No, I tend to take the ideas, how a sky forms. So, distance, foreground, cloud formation, and then I just keep that in my head and just see what happens, I think.
Okay.
I like the landscapes to feel alive, and maybe a little bit unfinished.
Yeah, no, you definitely capture that. Definitely.
The unfinished feeling.
I love, no, feel alive. So is that your next body of work that we're going to see at the doorway? Is the landscape work?
Yeah. I mean, the one's behind me, and I've got a couple down here that you can't see. Absolutely. I mean, I've got all different shapes and sizes. You can have the lot.
Bring the shed over. Oh, well, thank you, Adam. It's been really nice chatting to you and getting to know you and your studio. I loved it. Loved every minute of it this week. Loved the video.
Well,
it was really quirky.
Well, if somebody can find the key to let me out, I'd
Let
really
you out.
appreciate
I
it.
think your wife has it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Do 20 paintings you can get out.
Yeah, I'll do a couple in a minute.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us as well and asking Adam questions. Yeah, and all really good questions. And we'll see
Thank you very much indeed.
Next Thursday. Thank you. Yeah. Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.